Last time.
While Konoe wondered what was on his mind, Ray suddenly grabbed his tail. What are you doing? Let go.
It's a crooked tail.
Yeah? So what? You have a really nice tail yourself.
Here we go.
The next day, Konoe went out into the town with Ray. Illuminated under the moon of light, Ranson looked even more disorderly than the night before. The streets were thrumming with cats and peddlers. What are we going to do now?
We're going to visit a shaman.
A shaman?
Supposedly, there's a shaman who can tell the future, living in the forests of Ranson. He's pretty wise, as well as knowledgeable, and seems like he can offer some advice. He might even know what's wrong with you.
Do you know where this shaman is?
I don't know precisely. We can ask around. Otherwise, we'd have to go into the forest and start searching.
Konoe was embarrassed by Ray's calm retort and abruptly shut his mouth. You're going about this pretty erratically.
Your issue may require some spur-of-the-moment thinking.
It was probably true.
That's all we can do. I don't know a lot about Ranson either. Let's find a bar first.
Konoe walked after Ray. He definitely didn't want to get separated again, but his eyes kept wandering over to the stores. Extravagant decorations caught his attention. Now that Konoe thought about it, that innkeeper Bardo had mentioned some kind of winter festival. Were these stores beginning to line up their wares for the festival? He just wanted to take a quick look. He walked the streets for a while, struggling against the waves of cats. His view was assailed by information, but his eyes began to gradually block it out. Only gray scenery passed by him as he walked. Suddenly, in the midst of this, he sensed the presence of a vivid color. Konoe looked back. A cat stood stock still in the back alley. No, it wasn't a cat. What protruded from its head were not ears. Those were horns. Time seemed to slow down. His heart began to race. In the back of his mind was a snake, its slippery tail sliding. The yellow snake began to undulate. Konoe's pupils narrowed into slits. He stopped and looked back towards the alley.
Hey, where are you going? Hey!
By the time he heard Ray's voice, he had already broken off into a run. He pushed through the crowd towards the gray alleys. He stepped into the dim and narrow entrance. The not cat was still standing there. Light billowed around it like waves of heat. There was no mistake. That was a devil.
That's a...
Ray had chased him and stood by his side, furrowing his brows with a frown to peer into the depths of the alley. The devil slowly drew closer. It was different from the previous one. The devil before Konoe had a golden presence. It slowly hoisted up an arm. Was that electricity? At this rate, it would cause an uproar on the main street.
Wait!
Konoe drew his sword and began to sprint towards the golden devil. However, there was neither the light nor the impact he was expecting. The golden shadow of an arm swung downward, and a slim electric current ran forth. It made a sound like crackling flames, and began to cover the devil's entire arm. This time, the shadow rushed towards Konoe as well. Konoe quickly swung his sword, using its tip to cut across the shadow's chest. The tip of the sword slashed diagonally at the breast of the shadow. There was no response. Konoe heard a harsh crackling. The shadow did not even flinch. Did it not feel pain? The arm covered in electric current bore down on him. Reflexively, he closed his eyes. However, a dull sound echoed through Konoe's ears. He lifted his face. A sword was thrust out from behind Konoe, and it sliced deeply right into the forehead of the golden shadow. Even though the shadow's face was turned to the side, it was blurry, and Konoe couldn't discern anything other than smiling lips. It was horribly ominous. Before long, a small crack ran from the middle of its forehead, where the sword had pierced it. The crack spread through the shadow's entire body. It was the same as the red shadow he saw in the forest. As Ray withdrew his sword, the golden shadow made a delicate sound and shattered into pieces. It was that same dishearteningly abrupt conclusion as last time. The fragments glittered as they scattered, dancing through the darkness of the alley.
You are a complete idiot.
He looked back, offended by Ray's exasperated, ridiculing voice.
Don't just pounce without thinking of the consequences. You'll die.
Huh, it can't be helped. If the main street was damaged, there'd be chaos.
That thing, just now.
Before Konaway could tell him it was a devil, Ray opened his mouth again.
That wasn't its true form.
How do you know?
I'm a bounty hunter, so I also hunt demons. I have to know these things.
That meant Ray was that particular type of bounty hunter. A demon hunter.
It would be a waste of energy if they used their true power.
This isn't even my final form. Ray sheathed his sword, his coat billowing as he turned on his heel. Konaway followed Ray, glancing once back towards the alley. Why did the devil's shadow appear in the city? He could still make some sense of seeing one in the woods. But were they aiming for him? Yes. Konaway looked to the streets, uneasy. A single street extended from the main road. It was a dark and narrow alley, unlike the wide main road. The lively crowds began to fade away, and the stale air began to drift in. He saw a vagrant dressed in tattered clothing sitting on the side of the road. Where are we going?
A bar. It's easier to get information from bars in these alleys.
They each gave the huddled cat a strange look as they passed. He was missing an arm, as though he'd caught the sickness. Come to think of it, Tokuno once said that Ranson had an outbreak of the sickness. The victims of the outbreak just couldn't be seen on the main road. That'd be the void sickness, where people lose limbs and internal organs and are consumed by this sort of all-consuming disease. Kind of mysterious. The people who caught it probably fled to the back alleys, cast out into the unseen, sullen part of the town. A sour smell reached his nose. The scent here was truly revolting. These streets were filled with vulgar stores, unlike the main street, and Konaway's fur bristled on end as he stood on guard with unfamiliar wariness. Ahead, two cats wearing tattered-looking coats and covered by their hoods leaned against the wall. Their eyes followed Ray and Konaway. The two of them each held a bottle of liquor in their hand and talked to each other about something amongst themselves. But when Konaway and Ray passed, they called out,
Hey.
Ray stopped and looked at them. Their faces could not be seen, shrouded under their hoods.
What?
Where are you going?
None of your business.
When Ray answered coldly, the two of them exchanged glances and laughed.
I've been scolded. He scolded you, huh? None of your business, he said. None of our business, I wonder.
Their similar voices alternated back and forth. They're creepy.
Don't mind them. Let's go.
Once more they began to walk forward.
Black cat, where are you going? Where are you going, cursed cat?
Their repeating words made Konaway halt. What did they say just now? The two cats stood side by side when he looked back. They vigorously raised each bottle they held over their heads and flung them to the ground. One after the other, the sound of shattering glass echoed.
I wonder why this black cat turned black. I wonder if the black cat used to be a different color. Why did he turn black?
Why did he turn black, I wonder?
You,
What are you? Conway glared at the two cats.
They're provoking you. Don't mind them.
Ray grasped his shoulder. Conway understood. They were baiting him, but he couldn't afford to let them intimidate him. The two cats exchanged glances and chuckled.
Should I tell him, Yui? Let's tell him, Bill.
After speaking amongst themselves, the two of them nodded and turned back towards Conway and Ray. Each removed his hood. Two identical faces appeared. Twins. Other than the color of their hair, Conway couldn't tell them apart. Ray seemed cautious and bared his fangs. So did Conway. From the two cats, the black aura slowly billowed outward. It looked like some kind of eerie illusion. These were not ordinary vagrants. You bastards! What the fuck are you?
What do you think? What could we be? It's futile to resist. Very futile. Because here, you will die.
The cat named Yui pulled up his coat and raised one arm with a thin smile. Conway was captivated by that arm. There were a great number of red lines, scars, that ran everywhere, both horizontally and vertically. But what Yui did next made Conway's eyes widen. He used the claws of his other hand to rake at the scars on his arm without hesitation. Blood oozed out and began to drip. Just looking at it hurt. Ray clicked his tongue and drew his sword. He was about to attack Yui, but then a sword was thrust out from beside him to block the attack.
I won't let you.
Kill stood in the way, horizontally wielding a dagger of his own. He smiled horrifically as if to provoke Ray. Ray jumped back, returning to Conway's side.
Troublesome.
What's he doing? Conway's eyes were still glued to Yui's strange behavior.
He's a Sangha,
Ray said with a hint of annoyance. Sangha? That guy?
Yeah.
Again, he looked at Yui. Yui dug his claws into his arm and closed his eyes in a euphoric trance.
The pain echoes. The pain shrieks. Pain plays within my body.
Something flooded into Conway's stomach, heavy as mud. He recognized something was happening to his body. This was a melody, a heavy, heavy melody. That cat, he was singing. A Sangha who sings through pain?
A normal Sangha sings with instruments or their voice, but this guy reacts to the sensation of pain and associates it with a melody. It's a dangerous thing. It sacrifices your own body for the sake of the song.
Such things really existed? He stared at Yui in disbelief.
Eliminate. Eliminate. Tear them limb from limb. Created from my body. A song for us.
The claws slid over the scars as if he were simply playing an instrument. Didn't he feel pain? Still, when Conway looked closely, he saw beads of sweat on Yui's forehead. Ever since they encountered these two, Conway felt things were terribly strange. There were no feelings coming from either of them. They smiled. They seemed joyful. They looked as if this was fun. However, there were no emotions, not even anger or madness. These two, it was as if these two were artificial, like the devil's shadows he saw. Fresh, vibrant blood dripped down from Yui's wounds, down to his elbow, and then to the ground. Before long, a slender tendril of warm light began flowing from Yui to kill.
You'll sing.
As his heart pounded away in his chest, Conway heard someone quickly ask him this. Ray was right. He was a Sangha, but he didn't know how to just start singing so suddenly. I still don't really know how. Can't we win if we just both fight together?
It's no use.
Penetrating the bottom of his gut, the heavy melody continued. Around Yui's feet, there was a puddle of bright red.
Let's do it, Yui. Let's do it, Kill.
An unpleasant smile ran across both their faces at the same time.
They're coming.
Kill kicked off the ground and propelled his body forward. For a moment, it felt like only the wind passed by. It happened in the blink of an eye. An ear-piercing sound resounded. Kill swung his sword down from overhead and clashed blades with Ray. As a result of his Sanga's song, both of Kill's arms were tainted red up to the elbow. With nothing but madness in his face, he spoke with a low laugh.
Die.
Ray grit his teeth and was gradually forced back. Ray, being pushed back, he was being overtaken. What incredible power. While their swords still crossed, Kill gleefully met eyes with Konaway.
You're a cursed cat. An evil cat. A cat who brings despair. A cat who isn't needed.
What did you say?
You're insignificant. Just hurry up and die.
A low growl leaked from Konaway's throat. His hand subconsciously drew his sword.
Idiot, run!
Ray noticed Konaway's presence and yelled out, still crossing swords with Kill. Though he heard Ray's voice, he did not hear his words. He should stop the Sanga's song. If he did that, they could defeat the Toga. Blinded by anger, this was the only thing Konaway could think. He pounced towards Yui, but then his line of vision was suddenly obstructed. It was Kill, who had just been fighting Ray, smiling.
Wanna die?
He put his hand to the blade of his sword and held it up to protect his head. His vision darkened, and a shock coursed through the bones of his arm. His body seemed to float in the air. He had been sent flying. His back hit the ground hard. He tried to get up when something suddenly pulled his arm with all its might.
Run!
But...
Do you want to die, dumbass?
Ray caught his arm and they broke into a run. The dark blood song chased after them. They ran through narrow streets. The vagrant cats of the streets glared at them, their ears turned down. Ray occasionally parried Kill's blade whenever it came too close, and gradually opened the distance between them. Dazzling light flashed each time their swords met. They exited the back alleys and leapt into the main road in a frenzy. It caused quite a stir. Clamor arose. The calls of the street merchants quieted, and instead there were several cries from the stores, which aroused screams among the chaos. Then there was the sound of something collapsing.
Out of the way!
What was happening around them? Konaway didn't have time to look. They determinedly pushed the waves of cats aside and ran. That black song would surely catch up, but then it began to quiet down. Konaway? He turned around and looked back. Looking amongst the noisy and confused cats one by one, he spotted a familiar face. His eyes widened. That was... Oh, it's Tokeno. Tokeno? Oh, this way. Konaway shook off Ray's hand that held his arm and grabbed hold of him in return.
What?
Just hurry, dummy. Konaway ran to where Tokeno was, dragging along a perplexed Ray. Tokeno immediately turned on his heels and ran into a back alley. Konaway followed him without a second thought. 'Cause they're besties. The claws.